So this is pretty simple at St. Peter with ProPresenter. Basically, I'm going to turn on the projectors because those are not turned on right now. Leslie is the master of all of this stuff. So she is going to be, I'm not going to talk about the content of what's going on in here.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one who will manage all of that. On the back end, the AV end of things, what we have is, I'll just point this out behind here. We'll go into a little more depth at the core with their unit, but both of these have a DeckLink Duo card with 4 SDI outputs on them in this case, which is USB connected to the computer.
Okay.
So this sends 4 different signals for 3 different outputs. Key, fill, both of those are needed for the live stream overlay. Confidence monitor, which when we were talking earlier about the home run, one of these cables goes up to there, home run, for that rear projection. And then the announcements, which gets sent to that video switcher, which then we can move to one of the TVs out in the lobby. So this box is pretty resilient, does not need to be rebooted that often, but this box is controlling those 4 outputs. The main screen output is coming off of the computer itself with an HDMI cable.
Okay.
And that goes into that Extron switcher down underneath the desk for the main screen output.
Okay.
So you have the computer itself producing one of the video outputs, the main screen, and you have the DeckLink Duo card producing 4 outputs itself. So it takes that graphics load off of the computer, and it's producing those and sending them over SDI to those destinations. So that is how this is hooked up and connected for that. So knowing that information is helpful once we get into the settings, because when we go to screens, configure screens, there's a couple different ways to get to this. We have the main projectors, we have the lobby, and we have broadcast. All of this stuff, go on YouTube. There are tons of videos for ProPresenter, how to configure this, but this is how ours is configured right now. So the main projectors is going to the Extron scaler. That's that Extron unit. You can see all of the outputs on here. The Dell is this guy, the Extron. It's identifying or it's seeing it, and you can identify it to see which one it is. And then it sees the Blackmagic channel DeckLink Duo card channel 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
So those are all plugged in as outputs. So if I went to lobby, not to rename it, it's on the DeckLink Duo card channel 4. If I go to broadcast, it's on DeckLink Duo card channel 1, even though it's using 2. There is a video by Renewed Vision, who made ProPresenter, that talks about setting up a DeckLink Duo card. I watched that video 17 times because there's something kind of confusing on how this works. I'm going to open up an application which is installed at both campuses, the DeckLink Blackmagic desktop app, which manages that card. So if I go to desktop video setup, installing this updates the firmware for the card if needed, and also has the software to assign what each output on the card is doing.
Okay.
So Renewed Vision goes through all the steps to do key, fill, lobby, and announcements. I think the same configuration because that's the most popular. So DeckLink Duo, actually, what's the way to do this? Yeah, here's the best way. So the pins don't even line up on the back. Like there's one reference pin, so pin number 2 is actually in here labeled number 1, and then number 2 is actually number 3, the third pin. It's like, I had to watch it so many times because it was so crazy. So key and fill is set in ProPresenter to DeckLink Duo 1. But here, DeckLink Duo 1, if I go to connectors, is set to SDI 1 and 2. because it's working together. Key and fill
Okay.
work together. So you
Okay.
have to have the 1 and 2.
Right.
The crazy thing is that number 2 is actually pin number 3. So this one is not assigned anything because it's working up here on this one. So then number 3, SDI number 3 in here is actually pin number 2 here. You know, it's like, what in the world, guys? Like, why did you design it? I don't know. Maybe there's a good reason. So go to Renewed Vision's YouTube channel and look up Decklink Duo setup ProPresenter, and there's a video. Watch it 17 times, and you'll understand like how this got configured. So I got it all configured. It works.
Mhm.
Awesome. One thing I did not mention, I'll talk probably more at St. Peter about this.
This is St. Peter.
Talk at the core. I'm trying to remember if we did this at St. Peter. At the core, everything has to be configured to 1080i 5994. The entire video system at the core, everything is set to 1080i 5994. Craig said that with the configuration, if you don't set it to that, it will just show up as a black screen.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember because and that's why I was stumbling over my words. When Aero AV was here, we got things changed over to 1080p 30, which we'll talk about with the new camera setup. I believe there's a conversion happening somewhere instead of redoing the entire system. I think we just inserted a conversion at the end of the chain for that piece. They got it all talking. They got it all working. It's now in progressive here. I have to dig into the archives too on some of this stuff and how we decided that. So just make note, 1080i 5994, especially at the core, when you're connecting things into that, it needs to be in that format or it's just going to show up black. Basically, all the video switchers are set to that. So, noted. So anyway, Decklink Duo card, crazy, weird configuration. Stay on top of that, and know if there are any changes, just make sure you do your research on how that works. Stage display, back wall. Why is that key fill? I don't know why that is. Shouldn't be that, but it's working. It's Decklink Duo 2, 1080i, 5994. Anyway, so all of those are configured in there and set up in ProPresenter. Trying to think if there's anything else with St. Peter. There's a few other things I need to talk about when we get to the cores ProPresenter with the triple wide. Remind me to talk about those things. Otherwise, in here, the team leads understand the MIDI connection between the computers. That's this audio MIDI setup at both computers. That Ableton computer is not turned on. When it is, it appears. Oh wait, it is showing up. I can connect to that computer, and that is how the two computers do the lyric triggers. MIDI over the network.
Okay.
So this has sometimes been a glitchy connection. Should probably talk to the IT guy about people turning Wi-Fi on these computers that are hardwired, because I think what happens is it picks the Wi-Fi. It even shows here. Wi-Fi IP address, hardwired IP address, IP4 and IPv6. So I think it's choosing one of those lines to send the MIDI commands. For instance, Wi-Fi. But if the Wi-Fi doesn't work, like we had a glitch where the Wi-Fi wasn't connecting, it breaks the connection and it gets lost. So I'm of the opinion that we need to keep all the Wi-Fi turned off and keep the hardwire turned on.
Yeah.
I believe the reason that keeps getting turned on is Leslie needs the Wi-Fi turned on to airdrop files.
Oh, sure.
I think that's been resolved, where now it's just all Google Drive or all Dropbox.
Okay.
If that's the case, I would recommend turning Wi-Fi off on all devices and relying on the hardwire connection for that reason. So if the MIDI's not working mid-service, if ProPresenter gets quit out mid-service, that will also break this connection. So you need to go back and make sure the MIDI's connected. so that the lyrics work automatically.
Okay.
That has been a pretty regular issue. So
So
we
the
just have to make
only,
sure.
going back to the Wi-Fi thing, the only devices that might have Wi-Fi turned on that we got to turn back off is the ProPresenter computer and the Ableton computer up front.
Correct. I think the Ableton,
The live stream
the live stream
audio,
computers, there's no reason for them to have Wi-Fi turned on. They're hardwired in.
but it wouldn't interfere with production
It shouldn't. No.
if it was on
No,
the live.
that shouldn't. I would be the opinion of get everything hardwired and just turn
Right.
off Wi-Fi just around
Yep.
the board. The only time would be if the only connection you have is like to the control network, and that's what you're using, where it does not have an internet connection, and that computer needs an internet connection, then leave the Wi-Fi turned on.
But we don't have that set up. We don't need that.
I don't think so. No, I don't think that's needed
Okay.
anywhere. I'm going to make a quick addendum. AI needs to put this in the rack at St. Peter video, the front musician rack area, is those outlets where the band plays up there on the wall are not commercially surge protected. The steeple is a lightning rod. So we've had a lightning strike issue where it burned out some components there. So what I have been recommending is the musicians unplug the rack from the wall during the week, so that if there's a storm, no one's here, lightning strikes. They do that for the drum set and they do that for the rack up front. The problem is on the Mac, the hardwired network connection stays active and slowly drains the battery.
Oh, right.
So they've come a couple times here with a dead Mac and they had to plug it in, get it rebooted up, get the power charging on it. So the way to alleviate that would be to unplug the USB hub and unplug the Dante network connection from that computer to stop the power drain. I have not found a good solution for that yet, because I don't want a lightning strike to blow everything up.
Mm-hmm.
So there might be some commercial surge protectors we could put on there. My understanding was that they're pricey, and where would we put it? Because it'd be just a big ugly box sitting up there, or something. So that's another project for the next production manager to determine how can we surge protect that stuff up in the front, so we don't have to unplug the rack and the drum set, everything every week. And it has to withstand a lightning strike, because the lightning would come down very close to those things. So now back to ProPresenter. So MIDI, there has been a glitch with the MIDI where when you try to connect, it says connected and then it disappears right away. And then you try to connect again, it shows up and then it disconnects right away. The only solution to that is I go to the other computer and connect from there, and it works fine. Small glitch. I don't know if it could be the Wi-Fi thing. I'm not sure. That could be part of it. So
if ProPresenter crashes, then we have to reboot ProPresenter, but then we have to reboot and reconnect the MIDI software.
Yes.
For that automatic triggers.
That will disconnect the MIDI. I don't know why, because it's a Mac Apple MIDI connection. So I don't know why quitting ProPresenter disconnects that connection. I'm not sure why, but it does.
Okay. All right.
So okay. ProPresenter, what other in the settings, I'll go back to settings. There is another, let me find where it is. Is it under network? No. There are a lot of things you can do in here with NDI. Under devices, ProPresenter needs to turn on the MIDI functionality to be able to send MIDI out of ProPresenter to the computer. So it is connected in the settings under devices. It's called Lyric Trigger here. You can disconnect it even if your MIDI on the Mac was connected and this was turned off, the Lyric Triggers won't work. This should be constantly turned on. It usually always is. There might have been one instance where I came in there, I'm like, why is this turned off? Maybe an update turned it off or something like that. So And then we also have a MIDI map in here. This is what assigns all of the notes to the keys, to what does what. MIDI notes to trigger certain things. This has all been configured at both campuses between Ableton and ProPresenter. So if there are going to be changes, you'll have to do that in there. This says, again, update available, but we do not install these updates. I'm letting Leslie manage that because it can. They always have lots and lots of fixes, but we've just found that they also break things. So Leslie is managing the different versions of ProPresenter. She will sometimes have multiple versions to test them first, make sure everything's working.
So is there any concern about the Mac OS getting updated or not updated?
I would wait off because Renewed Vision usually does state this version of ProPresenter is fully compatible with the next Mac OS. So wait for that announcement is what I would recommend.
Okay.
So, and I would wait to update these computers until then. Usually the miniature, the smaller updates through the main versions don't cause issues. It's usually the big jumps that cause issues.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, learn ProPresenter. The production manager, I would recommend go through if you're not familiar with it, go through all of the ProPresenter videos on YouTube and just familiarize yourself with the fact of like you can turn on and off the main screens just with this button. I have gotten a call from Leslie. I don't have anything on the screens. Is your audience button red? Yes, it's turned off. Click it and make it green. Oh, okay, thank you. Just familiarize yourself with looks, how looks work, which is how overlays look. Leslie is also managing all of that, but it's still good to familiarize yourself with all of those things and how this program works.
Okay.
So that is ProPresenter. And while I'm here, we'll jump back to the video changes. Right now it's on Mac HDMI. That is what this computer is. And like I said, there was the laptop cord. I would just press that. You'd see it disappear on the screen. The laptop would be showing on the screen. I'll press back to Mac HDMI. It will come back to this computer.
Okay.
This is the video switching input. When we get to the core, that is one thing I was going to have Aero AV install for us, is a switcher for the same functionality. Now that we have that need there, is to be able to do this exact same programming there. Install an Extron, I think it was an Extron they were going to do, and then program the QSC system to be able to switch inputs. Same as we have St. Peter down at the core, which right now we don't have that functionality. So we have to manually do it ourselves.
So that video switching happens no matter if you're in quick mix or console mode?
Correct. It will retain the last thing that it was on. So Mac HDMI is usually what is needed for Sundays. I have come in here where laptop HDMI was on for a funeral, for a slideshow. And then someone shut down and walked away, and then they came to Sunday. I got nothing on the screens. Check the video. Is it? Oh, Mac HDMI. Okay, thank you. So the first place is the touch panel. Just make sure. I do have a barcode on the back here with all the things about the touch panel. Familiarize yourself with that too. On all the things it does. That is ProPresenter.